So I just want to start by saying I really appreciate the conference organizers allowing me to hold you all hostage in this room and make you listen to some updates about the Minor Planet Center. So I know a lot of people here interact with the Minor Planet Center in one way or another, but often there's a few years in between when you send us data, and there have been a lot of changes over the last couple of years, so I just want to give everyone an update. So this is the current NPC staff. You can see some faces were recognized. Mike Alexanderson's here. Gareth Williams retired in 2020, so you don't need to email him anymore. But we've got a big staff, and we are gearing up for LSST and NEO Surveyor. So just as an overview, so the Minor Planet Center is the worldwide location for the receipt and distribution of the positions in minor planets, and we're responsible for identification, designation, and producing orbits for all of the small bodies. We maintain the data set and announce the discoveries of new objects. And if you're interested, we work under Division F of the IAU, and we're part of this small body together. Right now, like I said, we're working on gearing up dramatically to deal with LSST and NEO Surveyor. So I'm not going to go on about this, but the fatal survey identified the Minor Planet Center as really important because we contribute to events by trying to make sure that we find anything that's going to impact the Earth, but also we deal with really important science like TNOS. So, how do you find out what the Minor Planet Center is up to? I highly recommend our newsletter. There's a URL in the QR code here. We publish every month talking about the new software, any particular updates, things that may have changed within the last month. You can also receive the newsletter through the MPML mailing list, and you can find it on our website. So please consider checking us out occasionally. And it's a great way to keep up to date on what the Minor Planet Center is doing. So, in terms of contacting us, we have a new service, which is a help desk. If you have questions or concerns or complaints, or you don't know what happened to your data, or anything else, please, we would prefer that you do not send us email. We don't really monitor that email quite the same way we used to now that there are about 12 people instead of 3. It doesn't really make sense to send all of them emails. So we now have a help desk system. Most people here probably looking for the TNO Natural Satellite Help. A couple of you might be looking for comments. It's possible you want something under general, but you click on that and it gives you a bunch of choices. Don't stress too much about it. All it does is it affects who it gets assigned to first, and if it turns out they're not the right person to fix your problem, we'll reassign you. But this is where we basically want you to send all of your requests and complaints or warnings that you're about to submit a million objects or something like that. Or for example, if you need to submit data that requires some special handling, we need to make sure it's through an automated pipeline. This would be a great way to alert us for submission. So please check out our help desk. You can get to it from our main website under Contact Us, and also through our frequently asked questions. So the Minor Planet Center, we are currently working on modernizing everything, and it's an important balance of maintaining our current services, so data products like flat files, publications, monthly products, various files with orbits, and developing our new system. So we're moving towards basically replication of database tables. We currently have a database that you can replicate if you so desire, and we're working on APIs so that you can pull subsections of the database as needed. We've worked a lot on improving the website documentation about these services, and we're constantly trying to work on data quality. So obviously, it's a legacy system with a whole lot of legacy data, and there are lots of old observations that we're trying to make sure are all accurate in our new database system. So as I mentioned briefly, we're migrating towards a database-centric system. This includes using AWS, Docker, RabbitMQ, and Nginx, both for receipt and processing, We've done a lot of testing with LSST and some of the surveyor teams to make sure that we can handle the quantity of data we expect to be incoming. And so far, everything with that is going really well. It's all work in progress. We're working on creating all our new software. So all our new software is under version control in GitHub, and we are working on the very long process of migrating all of the old legacy code, which, if you've ever dealt with legacy code, I'm sure you can envision is quite a task, and none of the people who wrote any of it are anywhere nearby. So we're working on importing all that legacy code into GitHub, translating a lot of it out of Fortran, and into something that more people can edit and work with. We're also moving towards virtualization for a lot of our hardware to make more efficient resource use and faster recovery. So we have a bunch of new services. This is the one I think people here are probably most interested in. This is called MVC Explorer, and this is meant to be a replacement for our current DB search functionality. So as of right now, you can go in, put in an object name. It'll give you back all of the other designations that objects ever had, and you can download the observations. Putting the orbits into the service is an ongoing process, and they're not there yet, but we expect that to go live relatively soon. There is an associated API for MVC Explorer, and as you can see here, discovery details and any OCP data are yet to be added to the service, so this is still in beta. But in a lot of ways, especially with the designation identifications, it is more accurate than the current DB search. So we are no longer doing more significant fixes to the DB search data. We are focusing on getting MVC Explorer up and running. So as I mentioned earlier, we now have the Postgres SQL table replicated to SVN. If you choose, you can replicate it to your own machines, and it basically provides observations, current number of implementations, primary objects, and orbits. And orbits are done. Sorry, I tried to update these slides about an hour ago, and I guess it didn't go through. But if you take a look at our documentation, there are recent updates, and you can take a look there. There's a really detailed walkthrough of how to use the database, what you can access, and how to do it. So highly recommend checking out the documentation there. This is just a screenshot of the SVN instructions for how to replicate the database if you so choose. But that is a lot of data, so it depends what you want to do. The last thing I'm going to mention here is the orbit comparison tool. So this is a tool to compare orbits that the MVC generates with other orbit computation centers. So right now you can say, for example, compare the orbit that the MVC generates for any OCP objects to the GPL orbits. And this can be really useful for figuring out how constrained the orbit can be. So often there will be a degeneracy, and MVC may pick a different solution to GPL. It's pretty easy to identify here. Now, right now, this is only enrolled for NEOs. So a question that I have for this audience is this a tool that would be useful for TNOs? So they could be added, they have not been added. So it'd be good to know if people find that useful. So feel free to check out any of these QR codes for additional information on any of these tools. So there's some other new development. I don't know if any of you have used WAMO, which stands for Where Are My Observations? So if you have your submission ID or your OBS80 bit, you can go to the WAMO webpage and you can put it in and say, where are my observations? And it will tell you they've been published, they've been rejected, they are waiting for processing. A lot of you guys, they may be waiting for processing because currently the TNO queues are processed manually. Sorry. If it's multi-opposition, it's not, but a lot of the new stuff is processed manually. If you believe it has been way too long and you check WAMO and you're like, my stuff still isn't processed, you can contact us through the Jira help desk that I showed you earlier and politely tell us, it has been quite a long time. I'm wondering when my observations will be published. So please don't be shy. We're not mad if you contact us. Sometimes things fall through the cracks and it's not intentional. So some other things I mentioned before the newsletter. There are feedbacks for the MUG, which is the NPC users group. If you go to the ASIAA website, you can find a place where you can anonymously route it through the MUG feedback. Send feedback on NPC, either positive or negative, anything you want passed on to us. And there's also a really extensive documentation tab that has been completely redone on the website, so you can see, you can go take a look at that for descriptions of all of these different things. We have a new development webpage, which is what's shown here, so we go new development. You can see there's an API for WAMO, so instead of having to go to a website, you can use an API version, and a bunch of other things that you can check out if you're interested. Basically, a large number of APIs that we're trying to develop to make it easier for people to do stuff. Oh, I guess I should briefly mention, although it's not on the slide, one of the other things that we're currently in, is currently in progress is a tool for recording negative observations. So that can be really useful in determining that things are actually not there. So that is sort of, I don't even think there's a beta version out, but it is something we're spending a lot of time on right now, to make sure people can record negative observations. So what do we want from you? ADAS is replacing OBS80. So you can still submit OBS80 observations. This is the 80-column format that is impossible to look at, and you have everything smooshed together, and you're limited in how much time precision and astrometry precision you can provide. So you can take a look at all of our documentation to figure out how to use ADAS. It has a lot of advantages, primarily that we won't run out of object designations, and also that you can submit higher precision things. You can tell us the uncertainty on your data. All sorts of great stuff. It's very stable. It's the primary format we use internally now at the Microclimate Center. So please take a look, and sometime in the next few years we'll be announcing the date at which we no longer accept OBS80. So if you're setting up something new now, it's the time to take a look at at moving ADAS ahead of the deadline. TNO processing. So currently, we process multi-opposition objects automatically. Linking of a multi-opposition object, so if you say find some traplets in our isolated traplet file that match with an object that is a TNO, that's processed automatically. But new TNOs and objects which are currently single opposition are also manually processed, comments are manually processed. And so we're working on changing that, but that's still the current status. Any object where it's single opposition and we've extended the arc to multi-opposition with a single night of data, those go to the recovered page. So that doesn't qualify for an MPEG under the current rules. And adding a single night in the second opposition actually tends to skew the orbit dramatically and make it worse, not better, which is part of why we usually don't accept those until we get additional observations. And there are a lot of people who check the recovery page and, for example, look through archives to try to find additional data. So that's what we use that for. So basically, before LSST begins, we are going to attempt to automate all the TNO processing. There will probably be some problem objects that get kicked out from manual processing, and the idea is to reduce that number over time, drastically improve the comment processing, and change the MPEG requirements. So I don't know if it's controversial or not. But when MPEGs were introduced, the idea was to announce really interesting things and to make the data available immediately. So the data is all going to be available immediately because there's a database and you can query it or you can replicate it. You can access all the data. So the point of an MPEG should be to announce a really interesting object. So currently, we generate MPEGs for objects with Q less than 1.3 or Q paracenter greater than 5.6. So the TNOs obviously fall in this large Q region. LSST, as we saw, predicted about 37,000 of these. I don't know that 37,000 MPEGs in the next couple of years is going to draw your attention to the things that are really interesting. So we basically are asking you what TNOs and Centaurs should be MPEG. So should we use a Q cut, an H cut, an I cut, a bunch of different cuts? What objects are interesting? We also could certainly implement something like you can put in it's a request in your ADAs to say, I want now. So please check this out. There's a couple of questions here related to the talk. The most important being, what should we make MCAPs for? We have 2 jobs that are posted on the Slack. One is an astronomer with me, the other one is a software development position. If you have any questions about working at the Minor Planet Center, please come find me and Mike. And here's my summary. We're focused on getting ready to handle a large influx of astrometry by expanding and modernizing. Please contact us via the help desk. Please fill in this poll. And consider how you plan to interact and submit and receive data from the Minor Planet Center in the future. Thank you.
Are we going to get orbital uncertainties on the orbit fits from the Minor Planet Center?
Yes. Yay. So currently we do produce them. Are they actually in the database already?
They're certainly in the internal version of the database. I'm not sure which columns are in the public version of the database.
Yeah, so it's slightly complicated because, of course, it's only the objects with orbits computed under our current orbit pinning system that have all these associated uncertainty files. But yes, the plan is that when the database is fully complete, it will include uncertainty on all the orbital parameters.
Is there a way to include orbit classifications for TNOs as part of MPC?
Yeah, so I talked a little bit with Kat, but it was a while ago. So my hope is that we can basically attach Kat's classification system into the MPC orbits and generate, it would probably be a separate table with all of the orbits classified using Kat's tool.
Excellent.
So there's no promises on a timeline there, but that is something that I personally believe is very important.
It's all great to hear all of this. I just wanted to ask a little bit about how we can give feedback going forward. So I appreciate that we are getting asked here at this meeting. But if you look at the mug, it's basically the big surveys, and 90% of them are the NEOs. So is there a possibility that one of us in this community could be able to be on that mug to represent the sort of outer solar system community? Is that something that going forward the MPC might be interested in?
Yeah, so I believe it's either on the SBN web pages or one of the help desk options. You can basically volunteer to join the mug, and I would strongly encourage the community to select someone to do that because it is overwhelmingly the NEO group, which is part of why we wanted to bring a presentation here because it was really important to reach out to a wider user base. But yes, I would encourage that. There is a way to volunteer. And if you can't find it, please just submit a help desk ticket and we can connect you. There are multiple types of mug memberships. There are sort of full members and ex officio members, and anyway, we can definitely talk to them about adding a distant object, especially with the influx we're going to get from LSSC.
And if there are features you want or anything in particular, just keep submitting help desk tickets. Like, the more we get, the more important it obviously is.
Yeah, I agree. Feedback, obviously long term, please submit it to the help desk. That's how we assess how important things are from our users, is how often we hear about them. So even if you get well, we're not working on that now, the more we hear it, the more likely we are to work on it now.
Any more questions? Next speaker.